When you think of a person being charged with a 13-month sentence, what crime do you believe was committed? Petty theft, maybe even drug possession. What about sex trafficking minors? One wealthy man served that sentence after being accused of underage sexual abuse. Jeffrey Epstein is considered an extremely influential man beginning back to the 2000s. He became a symbol of the abuse of power and how much wealth comes a long way. He has a major network of politicians, royalty, and famous celebrities who are connected to him. My interest is with all the people who were allegedly involved, spurring my curiosity about how much influence a person can have, especially because this happened in the country I live in. Now, to truly understand Epstein's life and crime charges, and most importantly, we need to understand how the justice system was influenced. First, we will learn of Jeffrey Epstein's rise to power and in his connections and how the justice system became faulty. Now, who was Jeffrey Epstein? According to Cranley and Grogan and Moore, authors of The Life of Jeffrey Epstein, published in 2024, he was raised in Brooklyn, New York. He also taught physics and math at the Taunton School, where he later met his first connection, Ace Greenberg, whose son was tutored by him and was the executive at Bear Stearns. He eventually began working for them, and then he opened up his own firm, called J. Epstein & Co. in 1982. This firm, however, only accepted clients with $1 billion or more in assets, which created a suspicious type of business. In 1998, he finally had enough wealth to buy a 72-acre Little St. James Island for $7.95 million. This island was referred to locals as Pedophile Island. Rumors began and Jeffrey Epstein began growing even more suspicious. The island was the main island which was used to lure girls into a trafficking scheme that was later revealed in 2026 with the Epstein files. As he began rising in the country, allegations began spurring about unusual activities. He was later investigated and arrested in July 2006 in Florida. According to Jeffrey Epstein, Pedophiles, Prosecutions, and Power, published in 2023 by Blanche Cook, in 2008, Epstein was able to avoid federal prosecution for allegedly raping children to a said plea to charges of soliciting a child prostitute through a non-plea deal agreement. He was also allowed to evade a life sentence, and he got a private wing as well, allowing Jeffrey Epstein to have daily outside private office hours for up to 12 hours a day. According to Business Insider's The Life of Jeffrey Epstein, by Cranley, Goggin, and Namer, the U.S. attorney named Alexander Acosta negotiated for a 13-month sentence and was later called the sweetest deal of the century. According to the Epstein files by the Epstein media, he also had a large circle around him. Alan Dershowitz, Harvard's law youngest professor, represented O.J. Simpson and was part of Epstein's loyal team. He also was the one who did the non-prosecution agreement with him, and he was able to take that plea deal. Many others, like Prince Andrew, who was royalty, and also Donald Trump, were seen along him. His main connection was actually Ghislaine Maxwell. According to You Know What I Like by Victoria Becamus, published in 2025, Maxwell was a socialite and helped him find his victims. These victims were usually reported to have been young, beautiful, unmarried women who could answer phones and do office work at his home on Palm Beach. Some of these girls who did go reported to have been inappropriately touched by Epstein in the hearings of men calling to say they were dropping off particular girls. Epstein was also known to being in underage girls only. These girls were victims of the estate in which Maxwell lived in, but these crimes were committed to regular girls who were looking for jobs or money. To those involved, these girls were seen as commodities. In 2022, she was officially charged in connection with him and was charged to 20 years. Now that we understand the charges, we discussed why the length of the crime he did not equal law. As you know, Epstein's original conviction got thrown out, and he was able to only serve 13 months. However, this was not seen equal, and this forced the public to realize that treatment under the law is also not equal. According to Jeffrey Epstein, Pedophiles, Prosecutors, and Power, published in 2023 by Blanche Cook, Acosta did not follow the law and let Epstein be free. As the article names, the white heteropatriarchy is the power that can change the process. Jeffrey Epstein fit the categories that the article mentioned: white, male, and in the upper class. One of the laws that was broken was the Crime Victims' Rights Act, which violated the victims' rights. The victims became vilified instead of Epstein, and he became the victim. They were not heard in their plea deal or any sentence hearings, and Acosta also concealed the NPA from his victims. Now we ask, how does this affect the people? Well, in any normal case, especially for sex trafficking young girls, you can get sentenced up to a life sentence. Epstein received neither, and under Section 1591, there are two forms of sex trafficking. Under federal law, child prosecution does not exist, and minors cannot consent to sex. However, Epstein bypassed that for a shorter sentence, while his companion Maxwell got a 20-year sentence. While Jeffrey did get charged for it in 2019, he escaped by through suicide. This showed that he was not properly sentenced beforehand. However, all the prosecutors who oversaw this, prosecutors get the choice to who's in the room, who's the victim, and all of those things. However, this room was controlled by Costa, who ended up not finding any fault in Epstein. The justice system was created to protect those against abuse of power. However, this case exposed that those protections were worth to help the individual with wealth and power. Jeffrey Epstein rose to this position but committed serious crimes and was able to get a plea deal which threw the principle of the justice system out. The case was able to provide an understanding that wealth and power do have influence in legal situations. Justice was created to be equal. However, this case forces us to question that is truly upheld.